You're listening to the Contented Catcast from St. Claus Academy with Lisa Sinnott. Email stclausacademy@gmail.com.
So welcome to this month's Contented Catcast. I'm really delighted that Katia Colitti is here today. Katia is a lawyer and writer whose work has been published in Animal Welfare, Cambridge University Press, and Global Journal of Animal Law. Katia grew up in Ukraine, lived in the US for over a decade, and since 2012 has been based in Belgium. Katia has shared her home with 3 cats for nearly 2 decades. Her sole remaining feline family member is Margo, a playful and communicative 19-year-old who brings joy to her every day. A lifelong ailurophile with an MSc in International Animal Welfare, Ethics and Law from the Royal Dick School of Veterinary Studies at the University of Edinburgh, Katia has a special interest and extensive experience in geriatric and diabetic cat care. Katia writes on Substack about cat health and welfare, the human-cat relationship, cats in the arts, and cat loss grief. So thank you so much for joining me today, Katia.
Thank you for having me, Lisa. Thank you for this lovely introduction.
Oh, so could you tell me how you kind of came into writing? Because I know you've got kind of 2 folds on your Substack. Could you tell us a bit about, first of all, how you come to that, please?
Yes, absolutely. So first, as I was getting my degree, and it took 4 years, and it was very, very intense. I was focused really on that, on my master's. But after I graduated, I thought, wow, now I have this whole new world of not just information, but also ideas and a new vocabulary and where to get interesting information that other people might not find on their own. And so I had that kind of bucket of thinking percolating, and I've done some writing for just cat charities and animal welfare places. But so in the back of my mind, there was a little bit of this, I would like to maybe do something of my own. And then around about the same time, I unfortunately lost my 2 very senior kitties, Maya and Mosi, they passed away quite close to one another in time. And I started writing a very different kind of writing too, initially just very privately for myself, because I felt that I had so much emotion around losing them and so much grief. And so for a number of months, I just wrote in notebooks and things. And
did you find that helped you?
It did. It really did. And I still have, I've been writing on Substack now for about 14 months, but I still have so many drafts and thoughts and things that I haven't even touched. But yes, it helped me immensely, but I also felt very alone. Mm-hmm. And so then it all kind of came together, and I felt maybe if I go out on the limb, and I found relatively little on cat loss grief. I found a lot more on dog loss grief, animal loss grief. I think you'll know this is not very well accepted in society, so it's not so easy to begin with. And then within that, there is also a hierarchy of which animals you're supposed to grieve more intensely. And so I found that there was a lot less on cats. And then I just thought, look, I have all those things that I want to say, and maybe if I start writing in this little corner of Substack, maybe somebody else will find my writing, and if somebody else has lost a cat or is living with an older cat and kind of knows what's coming, maybe that person will feel less alone. And so that's how the 2 main pieces came together. And then the umbrella of it is just, I came up with the Mittens Companion Project as a name for the whole thing.
Oh, lovely. Oh, so you write poems as well, is that right?
I have done, yes, I have done that. So far, I've only put one of them on my
Mm.
cat loss grief publication. That's Letters to Mosi, and the name of it really was because I really was just writing letters to Mosi, and I was uh, writing them on individual sheets of paper, folding them, and putting them in this big, beautiful glass jar that I decorated and put little lights around, and it was just like a
Wow.
little special thing that I did, and so that's where the name comes from.
Oh.
Um, but yes, I have a number of them still waiting their turn. That was a bit scary, if I'm honest, because I'm like, I'm not a poet. I can't, but it just had to come out like that. And so I put it out there, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, that's really special. Sorry. It's quite emotional. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Could you tell us a bit about your degree, what you learn on that degree? Because I know there's obviously a lot of amazing papers out there, but sometimes I know when I studied, it was a bit like wading through treacle, some of the things, the terms, and it wasn't that accessible. And obviously, I know you work really hard to make content and research really accessible for people and cat carers. So, that knowledge is shared, not just, hidden in research publications or journals that people might not be able to access. What did you find you benefited from most in the course?
Oh, so many things. I would say, first of all, it was very challenging, and I threw myself, ever the perfectionist, I threw myself. I was like, I don't only want to do it, I want to do like a really good job at it, And so I was reading, and this was right around the time of COVID, so I was lucky in the sense that I had additional time because nobody was going anywhere, but I really went for it. I was there all weekends writing and reading and things, and it wasn't about cats. I had some coursework on clinical animal behavior, and there was something about cats, and I know this was much more of an emphasis for you. So part of it was about companion animals and cats, and that was very helpful. Part of it was about other animals, animals used in research, animals used in agriculture, but just really broad kind of ethical things, but also very specific things that were interesting and challenging for me in terms of animal biology. I'm a lawyer by background, and so it wasn't so easy. Some topics were not very easy, but it was really when I say a whole new world, I don't really I don't underestimate. It was really like that, and when you're in a certain profession, over the years, you end up boiling in that juice of that profession. So I've been boiling in the legal juice for some time.
Yeah.
And suddenly I've done some work over the years for animal protection organizations, but more like on the legal, helping with the legal writing and things like that. But this was something very different. This is really looking at what is animal welfare and really difficult topics that we have to deal with because humans use animals for all kinds of things. And so it just created this like firestorm of curiosity in my brain where I was just reading, and I would, start reading a book for an assignment. Like I had an assignment about the giant Pacific octopus.
Oh, wow,
and I just went off and I read books and then bibliographies of books, and then I started making connections. In particular, I was looking at boredom in the giant Pacific octopus, and then I'm gonna at some point turn it into an article from my Substack on boredom and cats, because we don't often think about animal boredom, but it can be really not a good experience for our companion animals, and so it keeps. I have stacks and stacks of things that I still want to read, so it keeps like that fire kind of keeps burning. And you're right, some papers are hard, especially for me, because I don't have a strong background in statistics or in some of the methods that are really complicated. And so, some of these pieces are definitely harder to explain in the to your average person living with the cat. But you know what I've also seen? I think there has been a growth in qualitative research that is more citizen science and things like that, questionnaires or qualitative behavioral type studies that really are not that difficult to explain to people. So that's also quite, it definitely affects the type of studies and the type of topic I consider it when I choose pieces that I want to write about, for sure. So it's all bubbling up here, and then it periodically comes out on paper on Substack.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's great. Is there a kind of a standout? I know you mentioned the octopus paper. Is there a standout research paper that sticks for you in terms of cats?
You have to think about this. There are so many really interesting ones, and the numbers still waiting their turn in my filing cabinet over there. But I will say that probably because I've just spoken with the author of the study from my Substack, I'm still very much actively thinking about the study that I wrote about in, I think, January or February, and I titled my piece "The Meaning of Community." And this woman was, I think, a master's student at that time in this university campus in Brazil. And in Brazil, apparently, university campuses are a very popular place to dump animals, cats mainly. Okay. And so she noticed that there were many cats, but there was especially this group of elderly cats. They're all over the age of 11. So for outdoor cats, that's really senior. And nobody seemed to really care very much. There was somebody who tried to take care of them, but that person wasn't there every day, and then that person retired. And so this researcher decided that she needed to do something about that. She wanted to change the situation of these cats. And so she went about it in the most amazing way, because everything was so thoughtful and so it came together just so beautifully, like she devised this system where these cats, they're mostly feral, mostly short-haired black cats, and there were like 13 of them, I think, in the study, in that group. And people couldn't even tell them apart. And so she gradually figured out like how they're going to tell them apart. She set up this thing where the cats were self-weighing, which I just loved. So she set up these little scales, and to get to the food, the cat had to hop on the scale, and then the researcher was there can't remember exactly how, from a distance they saw the weight of the cat. And she set up these very clever, she analyzed their nutritional requirements given their age, and she addressed people, people were trying to help, but people were not really helping because the food was of the wrong kind, even when it was there, or it would get moldy, or insects would get to it, or raccoons would get it, or dogs would get it. And so she very comprehensively addressed all of this, and it was all financed through this like online food bank where people even from a distance could donate for all of the supplies, and it was just so wonderfully done. And in speaking with her, and I was just so inspired, and I was so delighted when she said yes when I asked if she would speak with me. And now she's pursuing a PhD, and she's also a vet. So like me, it's like a second career. Like I'm still a lawyer by day, but this thing with animals and cat welfare is a huge thing for me. But this person I spoke with, so she got a veterinary medicine degree later in life, and so she's now pursuing a PhD, and for her it's all about community cats. And I asked her, because she's now at a different institution, and I said, how are those cats doing? And she said that they're still doing well, and people care for them, and they get better nutrition, and then the bond with the caretakers has grown over time, and so these kitty cats are not as feral as people thought. So it's a really wonderful story. So I think for me it stands out because it's not complicated in the sense of how it was done, but it was just so kind and so intelligently done and so practical. So you take the lives of the small group of cats and you really change them.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, community kind of power in action, and that kindness, and that's so lovely. Wow, that's great. What do you feel is a big kind of thing that every cat owner or carer should know? I know you touched on, boredom, and that can, sometimes, like in my cases it might be that the cat's just understimulated and then behaviours coming out that way, knocking things over or vocalizing or overeating, all these reasons just because of simply that they're a bit bored. Is there kind of a welfare concern that really sticks out for you that you wish people knew more about?
I would say it's a bit, I'm going to cheat a little bit because I think what I'm about to say, it's going to translate, it can go in many directions. So it can impact welfare in significant ways, but maybe not just as to one factor. I think, we all anthropomorphize, right? That's just how the human brain works. This is for quicker decision making and we kind of understanding or thinking we understand what's in the mind of another person is very beneficial for survival. So humans do this very well, but I think it can get us in trouble when we do this without thinking in our dealings with animals. And so what that could mean is we might not pick up a welfare problem with our cat if we think that our cat is just like a little person with fur living in our house, And then the second thing could be we might pick up that something is an issue, but we might not think of addressing it in the correct way, because then we're again thinking, and I think it's so pervasive, and sometimes it's okay without getting too deep. And I've done some research on the types of anthropomorphism, and my master's paper was a bit about that. So it's been on my mind ever since. But there is a way to have kind of the good anthropomorphism where you start with something based on your experience, and then you take into account the specifics of the animal that you're dealing with. So that's okay. And that can be kind of a starting point of something that could be fruitful and have a good result. But just assuming, it's like when people, you probably see this in your practice as well, people who don't let their cats jump up, or they don't provide any scratching surfaces, or they punish their cat for jumping on the curtains. And in fact, a cat is not a human. Like, they need different types of resources. And especially if you're only going to keep them indoors, you better make sure that you provide these resources. Otherwise, this animal is not going to be happy. So for me, this is a very big thing that I think it's impossible to not anthropomorphize, but I think it's possible just to stop and think like, okay, it's everywhere. People hug their cat very tightly. Maybe there are some cats who love it. Many cats don't love it. But, our thinking is like, I'm a human. I love it when people hug me. It means they're affectionate toward me, but a cat may be like, whoa, what is this? So it shows up in many different places. And so I think that's probably the one thing, just like, remember that your cat is not a little furry person.
Yeah. Different languages and different maybe cultures, if you like, or individual cats, absolutely. So what's your kind of aim with your Substack, your Minding Mittens Substack? What would you love? What's the, I know you're obviously inspired to do it for different reasons, but what is the kind of ethos behind it? Is there a goal behind it?
There are a few. I think probably the overarching one is to get people to think a bit more deeply than typically you're encouraged to do. And, especially now with social media and kind of this, everybody's attention span is getting shorter and shorter, and it's all about clicks, and it's kind of like a giant popularity contest, and people go for these cute pictures. They think they're cute. I personally don't think pictures of animals and clothing are very cute, but so I think I'm sticking to my like more thoughtful, ethically grounded, and let's talk about some challenging issues and maybe issues that people won't find so so easy to hear about. And so I just want to bring with the looking at the Mittens Companion project. Do you hear do you hear a frantic meowing in the background?
Oh, I didn't hear
Margo.
it. No.
This is Margo, my 19-year-old. She woke up and she came to, I know.
It's so hard. Anthropomorphizing.
She's like, no, you don't know. You don't really know. It's true. I don't really know. And so with the Mittens Companion umbrella, I'm sort of trying to to capture, I would say, all aspects of living with cats. And it's obviously a very personal project, right? Because I pick the people that I interview, I pick the pieces that I put there. I'm really interested in older animals. I'm interested in kind of the ethics of it all. And so for sure there is that. I'm not aiming, I think there's probably thousands, I don't know how many, I'm not aiming to be like another source of veterinary information or something like this. There are very good vets writing out there. There are very good clinics and very good cat charities that write. So it's a very personal take on this world of living here with cats and informed by sort of the broader living with animals on this planet. And then it's just from bringing the studies that maybe people wouldn't find otherwise in simple terms, bringing experts that people might not find, bringing my own personal stories, sharing the adoption stories of my cats, or sharing other special stories. Also, I play this game of cat spotting when I go somewhere. So if it's a museum or an art gallery, or so I just inject, a bit of fun into this whole thing by just like telling people, like, look, there are cats everywhere, and people have been inspired over the years, artists and writers, and so I try to bring a little levity because you have to balance it a bit. It can't all be deep and challenging. It has to be also light. And so what I hope people go away with is, first of all, on the topic of losing an animal, that people feel that they're not alone, that it is real, that we can feel very deep grief and we're not crazy, and it's normal. And so it's that, and it's been really wonderful for me as well, because I interviewed someone who said some things that have really helped me, and I've actually gone myself back to the essays that I prepared after the interview, and so I think that it probably has helped other people who have read it. So my goal is just for people to feel supported and not as alone. And with the rest of it, it's just this more, thoughtful and evidence-based and accessible way of writing about cats and cat welfare.
It's amazing. Yeah, I saw your posts about Venice. I'm just having a little look at them now. There's a lion angel-based cat on a pillar with a book, and I think you're right. It's great to have different takes on things, because sometimes the algorithm, if you like something that's a bit important but sad, if there's too much of that, it can, you want to turn off from it. So I think it's lovely that you're incorporating different things, and it's all evidence-based, because there's so much information out there, and like you say, sometimes the more likes means that it's bigger draw and more shouting in that area, but actually likes don't equate to real information, genuine science-based information. So thank you for everything that you're doing. It's so special. Did you have, I'm sure you with all your guests you've had some amazing people, but is there anything that surprised you most, something that someone said that surprised you most?
Oh, this is a really tough one. Did something really surprise me? Because typically I know the work of the person a bit, not everything, because some of these people are quite senior in their careers. So I'm not saying I read everything they've ever published, but for other people, I really do prepare. So it's not so much a surprise. I would just say that the conversation is always a surprise. It's just like the conversation we're having now. Somebody says something and then it goes in a direction that maybe you didn't think it would. And I typically share a list of kind of interview topics with my guests. And it almost never, we kind of broadly cover the things, but it almost never goes exactly as planned, and it's always better. And I never kind of course correct or try to bring it back. I mean, I have some things that I want to ask everybody, but it's just lovely. I have to say, it's probably the part I enjoy all of it, but this is the part that I enjoy the most, the personal connection with people who come and decide to take time out of their lives to talk to me. And talking to you is really a pleasure. So I'm very happy. It's been something I've been looking forward to. So thank you for inviting me.
Oh, no, pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on and for all you're doing. So everyone can find you at the mittenscompanionproject.substack.com. I've recently joined Substack and I find it a really lovely corner of the internet. It's really nice. Really enjoying my time there. Where else can everyone find out information about you, or if we've got any kind of guests or guests listening that want to talk to you, how can they reach out to you, Katia?
Just Substack. So I don't have a website for sure. If somebody wants to come and have a chat about cat welfare or anything that I write about in the Mittens Companion project, there is a button, when you go on the Mittens Companion project page, and then I think.
Perfect.
I think if you click, I get an email. So it's maybe what I'll try to do. This is actually a really good point. I'll put some of these, Substack is reasonably user friendly, and so you can put a button email me or contact me. Maybe I'll add something like this to the homepage. So the home of my interviews is this section that I've created of Minding Mittens that's called Fireside Cats.
Oh, lovely.
A bit of play on fireside chats. And so I can just maybe add there a button for people to find me. But yeah, for sure, it's always such a pleasure to connect with other people who think about how can we live better with our furry companions.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, well, I'll leave you to your evening with Margo, but thank you so much again. Take care, Katia.
Thank you very much, Lisa. It's been a pleasure.
Bye.